Sex work is believed to be the world's oldest profession. First, some of the reasons women are forced into prostitution is due to economic desperation, family problems, low self-esteem, and history of sexual victimization. The conventional types of locations where pimps recruit more women into the sex industry include social gatherings such as nightclubs, strip bars, malls, high schools, college campuses, mass transit stations, poor neighborhoods, and streets where prostitution is known for, but also via online or through social media channels. To run a successful business in the sex trade requires recruiting, job training, marketing, setting prices, arranging date details, providing transportation if necessary, protecting the staff, collecting and managing money, and seeing to the needs of the employees. Sex traffickers often operate with formal business models. In essence, the sex work functions similar to a small business structure. However, it's difficult to pinpoint the exact quantity of income sex work in the U.S. makes annually. The sex economy not only includes one transaction for sex and money, but also drivers, hotel rooms, and other support services as I just mentioned. A study done by the Urban Institute released estimates that the underground sex market in 7 U.S. cities generated between 40 million to almost 300 million in a year. The underground commercial sex economy in Atlanta brought in about 290 million in 2007, whereas Seattle doubled twice their amount from 53 million to 112 million in 2003 to 2007, growing about 123%. Furthermore, the internet has radically bifurcated the sex work market. Whereas before it was primarily a street-based market, now with the advent of the internet, there are various ways for marketing and recruiting other employees, in addition to creating partnerships with other traffickers and pimps. Yet there is no conclusive answer on whether street trafficking is shrinking while online sex trafficking is escalating. To prevent people from joining the sex market, we can figure out not only how to prevent the victims and other individuals from being recruited by pimps and facilitators, but also figuring out strategies to prevent actual pimps and other future pimps from entering it. As far as intervention strategies, one thing proven to be useful is psychological coercion, which recruits and retains their members, so more services are provided for the victims and those individuals who would like to leave that life for mental health purposes. Unfortunately, law enforcement say they just don't have enough funding to be able to really infiltrate the sex industry.
Sex work is the provision of sexual services for money or goods. They have changed the name for people who engage in this type of work from prostitutes to sex workers. They changed this because the term prostitute restricts a person's identity to the activities they engage in. Sex workers do various things like having sex for money, dancing nude, making pornographic movies, and having erotic webcam conversations. Sex work is a more diverse term, unlike prostitution, which exclusively is the exchange of sex for money. It is only legal in the state of Nevada, but they have certain laws for it. One of the laws is that it is forbidden to use your home for prostitution. Sex workers make their own rules on what they want to do and what they don't, how much they charge, and how long the service will be. Their limitations are not negotiable. There are brothels, which are houses where men can visit prostitutes located in different counties of Nevada. Here is a video of a tour of the Cherry Patch Ranch, which is a brothel in Nevada.
Go ahead down there, and then we lock it up, and then we tease him over here. Then we might give him a little spank and tell him to be a good boy, and he'll get his reward when we go into the bedroom.
Believe it or not, this is just one of the things you'll find going on behind closed doors at the Cherry Patch Ranch, one of Nevada's legal brothels. We visited this pleasure palace located about an hour away from Las Vegas to give you an idea of what makes it tick.
Cherry Patch, may I help you? I cannot quote you any direct prices over the phone, but I can tell you we have a $30 minimum. We accept MasterCard, Visa, traveler's checks, and cash.
The Cherry Patch was licensed about 10 years ago, and this is what you'll find when you walk through the door.
We have a lineup, and all the girls come out, and then he picks which one he likes. Sometimes they pick the heavy ones like me, or the little skinny ones. When they come in here and they pick me, it's like, that's an honor to get picked, over the other girls. So you try and let them enjoy themselves as much as possible.
Most of the girls told me they love their work, but for all of them, there's one bottom line.
We're all here for the same thing, to make money.
And while the subject of sex work is a multifaceted social justice issue even of itself, We cannot begin to unpack this conversation until we understand how privilege, race, class, gender identity, and heterosexism affect this subject and leave some communities more vulnerable than others. Specifically, I will be talking about how systems of governance and power inequalities in the U.S. have made it so that transgender women and transgender women of color are far more susceptible to becoming sex workers because of their social location than other white, middle to upper class, cisgendered women. As Kevin L. Nadal, Ph.D., states in his 2013 article, Transgender Women and the Sex Work Industry, because transgendered people face discrimination on systematic, institutional, and interpersonal levels, many transgendered women view the sex work industry as their only viable career option. The amount of discrimination and abuse trans women and trans women of color face in comparison to other marginalized social groups is staggering. As Nadal states in the same article, because the United States and most other societies tend to normalize a gender binary, or rather believe that there are only two genders, male and female, many individuals pathologize anyone who does not subscribe to gender binary norms. In a report published back in 2009 by the National Center for Transgender Equality and the National Gay and Lesbian Task Force, they found an array of disparities experienced by their sample of 6,450 transgendered people across the United States and Puerto Rico. Firstly, the number of women who identified as transgender in the sample who were unemployed was twice that of the normal average of unemployed people. Secondly, a total of 47% had experienced an adverse job outcome, such as being fired, not hired, or denied promotion. And lastly, a total of 97% of those surveyed reported experiencing harassment or mistreatment in the job. When we do not have laws that protect these women from job discrimination, and then combine that with the already daunting ways that trans women of color are at risk due to their social location and the many institutions that discriminate against them due to their race, class, or gender identity, we can then see how many trans women can only see sex work as their only viable career option for themselves. In the 2014 documentary Mala Mala, 9 women share their stories and experiences living in Puerto Rico as transgendered women. This documentary follows these women as they seek to find love, struggle with self-identity, and fight for equal rights and protections under the law. One of the many focuses of the film is the high amount of trans women in the sex industry in Puerto Rico. These women are living on the intersections of race, class, and gender, and 7 out of the 9 women admitted to having engaging in sex work to support themselves at one point or another during their life. Now let's watch a clip by Janet Mock as she explains her own experience in the sex work industry in her book, Redefining Realness, My Path to Womanhood, Identity, Love, and So Much More. Janet Mock is a writer and trans activist who is very visible in the community.
I did work at other places while I was doing sex work. So as for me, I worked at a clothing store. I worked at a fast food place. I worked at boutiques and all these kind of things, you know. But nothing would compare to the check that comes from being a sex worker. That money was quick. Quick money enabled me to do things more quickly. And for me, my body issues, my body image issues, the way that I felt about myself, those are urgent matters. And for me, frankly, at that time as a 17, 18-year-old, there was no waiting another year for things. I needed them now. And so for me, there is the shame attached and the stigma attached to being a sex worker for me, but there's also the other things I got from that, a sense of community, sisterhood, resiliency, resources, strength. It was like our underground railroad of resources to navigate a system not built for us. And for me, that's what sex work gave me. And so I want to have all of those feelings within Redefining Realness when I'm talking about sex work, to really unpack it. It wasn't all bad and it wasn't all good. None of it was glamorous. Some of the girls were glamorous, but there's a lot of relationships there, a lot of facets, and I hope that my biggest accomplishment will be able to really give that to someone, all of that complexity, to someone reading the book.